That membership only costs $98 a year. I pay a lot more.
You're paying too much.
You should switch to Walmart Plus.
Was considered one of the greatest achievements in human history. It still is. But in 2020, a DNA study revealed that the achievement was even larger than anyone had understood. Because Polynesian navigators did not just settle the Pacific, they crossed it, reached South America, made contact with its people, and sailed home again, centuries before any European ship came close. That finding did not just add a footnote to the story. It changed what the story was about. The origins of the Polynesian expansion begin in Taiwan, approximately 5,000 years ago. The linguistic evidence established this decades before genetics confirmed it. Languages spoken across the Pacific from Madagascar to Easter Island all belong to the same family, Austronesian, one of the largest language families on Earth, with over 1,200 member languages. When linguists trace these languages backward through time, every trail led to Taiwan and southern China. The words for canoe, sail, and ocean in Hawaiian share roots with languages spoken by indigenous Taiwanese peoples today. That is not coincidence. That is a 5,000-year-old family connection preserved in vocabulary. The DNA tells the same story with greater precision. Polynesian people carry genetic markers from two distinct ancestral populations. The first derives from East Asian populations, those original voyagers out of Taiwan. The second is a genetic signature from Papuan populations in Melanesia. Inherited during the centuries, Polynesian ancestors spent moving through the islands of Papua New Guinea and the Solomons before pushing east into the open Pacific. The journey was never a straight shot. It was a layered migration spanning generations, with mixing and cultural exchange happening at each staging point along the way. The archaeological record marks the path. A distinctive pottery style called lapita ware, decorated with intricate geometric patterns pressed into clay, appears across the Pacific beginning around 3,500 years ago in the Bismarck Archipelago near Papua New Guinea. Wherever archaeologists find lapita pottery, Polynesian ancestors were there. It functions as a trail of markers across an ocean that left almost no other physical trace of the people moving through it. Then, around 3,000 years ago, something unexpected emerged from ancient DNA that forced the entire model to be revised. Researchers extracted genetic material from lapita skeletons buried in Vanuatu and Tonga, people who lived at the very beginning of the Pacific expansion. What the genomes showed was startling. These earliest Pacific settlers carried almost no Papuan ancestry at all. They were almost entirely East Asian in origin. The Melanesian genetic component visible in modern Polynesian populations was not present at the founding moment. It was added later through a second period of interaction with Papuan peoples after the initial lapita settlement had already been established. The story was not a single migration. It was two distinct chapters written in DNA, separated by centuries, producing the unique genetic identity that Polynesian populations carry today. After settling the island groups of Fiji, Tonga, and Samoa, the expansion paused. Archaeologists call it the long pause, roughly 1,000 years, during which no new islands appear to have been settled. What was happening during this period was not stagnation. It was refinement. The technology and navigational knowledge required to push further east into genuinely open ocean was being developed, tested, and passed forward across generations. Then, around 1,500 years ago, the expansion accelerated in every direction simultaneously, east to the Society Islands and the Marquesas, north to Hawaii around 1,200 years ago, south to New Zealand, which the Maori call Aotearoa, around 1,000 years ago, and finally to Easter Island, known to its own people as Rapa Nui, the most remote inhabited place on Earth. Each of these voyages covered distances that challenge comprehension, even with modern navigation technology. The crossing from Tahiti to Hawaii covers 2,400 miles of open ocean, with no land in between. The nearest inhabited island to Easter Island sits 1,200 miles away. These were not accidental driftings carried by storm and current. We know this because of what the settlers brought with them.
Well, they're over
At
there
every
and you're over
Polynesian
there.
island site, archaeologists find the same package of
And I'm
introduced
alone.
species: taro,
And I own a phone.
breadfruit, coconuts,
I actually have
chickens,
two
pigs.
phones.
These were deliberate colonization voyages, planned expeditions loading canoes with everything required to establish permanent communities on islands that had never supported human life. The navigational system that made this possible operated without a single instrument. Polynesian wayfinding, the art of reading the ocean and sky to maintain bearing across thousands of miles, uses stars, wave patterns, bird behavior, cloud formations, and watercolor as a continuously updated mental map of position. Navigators memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars to construct a star compass dividing the entire horizon into navigational segments. They read deep ocean swells, which reflect off islands and create interference patterns detectable through the hull of a canoe to sense land over 100 miles away before it became visible. Certain seabirds range only a fixed distance from shore. Clouds behave differently over land and over open water. A stationary cloud in a moving sky almost certainly sits over an island. In 1976, a traditionally built Hawaiian double-hulled canoe called Hokulea sailed from Hawaii to Tahiti using only these techniques. No GPS, no compass, no sextant.
We are explorers
and innovators.
We are driven by curiosity and our passion for excellence. We attract brilliant minds, nurture diverse perspectives.
We empower our scientists to push the limits of knowledge without boundaries,
Cross disciplines. We provide